All right. Infernal greetings, infernal blessings to all. So I decided to have this open class for all Patreon for several reasons. One, um, to include some of those that are in the lower tiers that don't get the advantage of the other classes. For two, some of this video most likely be posted on YouTube. And for three, to take questions from people that are not just particularly to your class. So it could be for anything on the left-hand path. Essentially, the demonic masculine, demonic feminine. I did a video on that, so this would be an extension, an add-on, and even expanding upon that discussion that I did that video a couple weeks back. As I stated in that video, there is a difference on the left-hand path between what people commonly call would be the divine self or the divine feminine or divine masculine. There's a difference. One of the subtle differences is how your mind perceives the word divine and how your mind perceives demonic. See, that it's not the word demonic as in the sense that is used in horror movies like demons or things of that nature. It's purposely spelled daemonic, Daemonic, for a reason. It comes from a Greek word, which means the supernatural, super genius, or the super self, the higher self. Okay? When we say the words divine feminine, divine masculine, subconsciously, which creates 95% of your reality, we're still associating that word divine with a religious connotation, with a religious definition or religious understanding of what that word means. Whereas when we hear the word demonic, we think of evil, wrong, bad. See, and this is where the mind plays the tricks that we have to overcome in order to reach apotheosis or self-deification. If you keep associating everything good with divine and everything bad with demonic, you miss the point. Point is, your true self is not reached in the divine. Reaching the divine means merging with some sky daddy or sky mama, or the concept of some divine overseer of this universe or multiverses. Therein, if you believe in a divine concept, you're still merging into that concept in that definition, which is all based upon the old paradigm. The old paradigm is all these old religions. It's all these old educational systems. The American educational system has not been changed or updated since the 1700s. Go imagine. Still the same old educational system. And this is why it's important to understand what the demonic self is. It's the adversarial self, meaning it's against what we perceive as what is good, right, and beautiful in this society. And learning to accept who you really are, that is not based upon the definitions of this society. For example, one of the definitions of society is the concept of the feminine, what would be considered a beautiful woman. Okay? This concept, of course, in this society in the West, is at one time that concept was based upon blonde hair, blue eyes, and a frail, skinny woman. In time, they've adapted the physique, the complexions, or varying complexions of what a melanated woman would be. So you would get your Kim Kardashians, who's olive tone, because people in her country, her origin goes back to Armenia. Is it Armenia? I think it is. Whatever it is, one of them countries over there. I think it's Armenia, but people there tend to be olive tone. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of people there in that area have mixed into Arabs, people of African descent, things of that nature. So you have various complexions. So it's accepting the adversary, is accepting the opposite as being yourself, as being true, and not feeling vilified for being the opposite. See, a lot of times we as people have this conception, or misconception, I should say, that I just want everybody to like me, or I just want people to accept me. Why? Ask yourself why. Because see, that in itself shows that you're still seeking approval and validation outside of yourself. The demonic masculine, demonic feminine does not seek validation, but anyone other but from themselves. And as long as we keep seeking validation from external sources, you will never truly find who you are in external sources. You can only truly find who you are in internal, going in an internal journey. For example, some of you all through your rituals are discovering things about yourself that you didn't know before, or you knew or just and probably never acknowledged. So what about if you find out that you are a supreme asshole? But in society, that's considered bad. But you're coming to the realization that I'm an asshole. And we're told to, okay, don't be an asshole. You're supposed to be like this. You're supposed to be like that. But when you walk this path, the left-hand path, the adversarial path, you understand that you have to embrace every part of yourself. Not just the good shit about yourself, because that's what people tend to do quite often. You know, they just tend to acknowledge the good stuff about themselves. And good is based upon a subjective reality, how people perceive life from inside themselves outward. Okay, so we tend to want to fit into this neat structure of what it means to be this. But to truly reach apotheosis, you have to truly embrace every part of yourself. That means if you are an asshole, you embrace that part of yourself too. That doesn't mean you have to be an asshole. It just means you know that that asshole is there, and therefore you will utilize that part of yourself when it's necessary. For example, if somebody's crossing that line with you and you keep telling them back off and they cross that line, unleash the asshole, because it will protect you and keep your mind sound. But for the sake of being good, like we're taught, you keep allowing these roaches to cross over that line, then you're enabling them to basically be hurt, be manipulated, be used. And people quite often do this because they're afraid of not being accepted. They're afraid of not being acknowledged, and they're afraid to be alone. Some of you are loners. That's even a better thing sometimes, especially on this path. Because on this path, if you're a loner, that means you're taking more time to focus on yourself. You're taking time to face yourself and acknowledge these parts about yourself and bring it into totality. See, the problem with being divine, masculine, or feminine is that you're trying to merge into something that's not you. You're trying to merge into a reality called the universe. That's the new God for many people. Merge into the concept of the gods, merge into the concept of a god or goddess, sky daddy or sky mama. And you're wasting valuable time on reaching this grandiose, delusional picture of what it means to be divine. instead of focusing on integrating your demonic self with your superficial or your acting self, the character you play to live in this society and survive, we focus on everything outside of us. You can never truly be happy if you always focus on things outside of you. If you always focus on what's the latest fad, oh, what's the latest style of, or what's the latest fashion, or what's this or this and that. That doesn't mean you can't be flavorful in your appearance and look good and dress good. But if you go to the point where you just have to keep up with with the latest fad and the latest fashion styles, you're missing the point. It's not about the latest fad or the fashion styles. It's about the latest work you've done with yourself. Can you acknowledge that you may have caged yourself into a boxed mentality and you're not truly happy? Can you accept that you may be living a lie? And listen, I've walked this path for years now. And one thing I've learned in this path is many people come in here, when they come to the left-hand path, is because they find themselves living a lie. Some people should not be in relationships. I'm gonna be honest with you. Some people should not be in relationships. They totally suck in relationships. But those are the very people that are always trying to be in a relationship. Ask yourself, why do these people constantly want to be in a relationship and they suck in relationships that can't last 6 months in a relationship? That's because this is a way for them to mask who they really are. For example, if a guy gets in a relationship, but he's totally a slut, he'll get in a relationship for various reasons, but usually one of those reasons is to prove to themselves that they can be loyal or faithful. And they usually can't. But the delusional mindset we created is, oh my God, I'm going to try to get in this relationship. I'm going to prove to myself that I can be faithful and loyal. And in the process, they end up miserable, which then ends up leading them to do what? Cheat. So what was the purpose of getting in a relationship in the first place? Then you have people who lie to themselves and tell themselves that they're loyal. But yeah, every second and every chance they get, they're being disloyal. You have people who think that I'm, super spiritual and super supreme, and I'm so divine that, I can be a great person in this relationship, and they end up physically hurting and abusing the person they're with. Why is that? Because we're wearing masks. We're not identifying with the demonic self, the true self, the higher self. Whatever the hell people want to identify and call it and label it, you're not identifying with who you truly are. I had a conversation with a good friend, and they brought that reality to my attention. We were discussing things, and one of the realities was, how you're starting to reach apotheosis? Because you've accepted every part of yourself. That means the shittiest part of yourself to the most beautiful part of yourself. You accepted that. You accepted that to be true of who you are. And now you understand that you may have weaknesses, but you don't let those weaknesses rule you. You've learned to utilize those weaknesses and turn them into something that can be beneficial to you. You learn to accept these perverted parts of yourself, these rageful, angry parts of yourself, and not shun yourself and try to suppress that. You've learned to use them in a healthy manner. So to be divine is the utmost lie people accept, because in their mind, they're subtly still confessing that they're still stuck on some grandiose heavenly place or alter another dimension where they're going to go to, and they're just going to be happy as one. Some people in the left-hand path even use that concept within their teachings about merging with the divine. And then after you merge with the divine, you set out and separate yourself from that. I can't get with that. I don't want to merge with anything. See, the problem is this. We have been given such a bad rap about our ego, which is basically your finite spirit. Your ego is essentially your finite spirit. But your demonic self is your higher spirit or your true self. And both have to work in unison. You can't, people are so hell-bent on, oh, I got to destroy my ego. I got to check my ego. But your ego is a part of this finite spirit within this existence that you will always use and have as long as you're in this existence. So why are you trying to get rid of it? It's because people don't understand that when you learn about your ego, you learn how to still use your ego, but you operate from the sense of the demonic self, from the true self. And you therefore use your ego in this finite world as a tool or vessel to navigate the waters within this existence. You're not trying to destroy it, eliminate it. You're trying to learn how to use it in a healthy way that still allows you to navigate this physical existence. But everything, I mean, there's so many people in the left-hand path that say that they're leaving religion, they don't want to accept that, but there's still a lot of that shit still seeped into the left-hand path, and they still accept that as like it's true because I'm saying it differently now because I'm utilizing these adversarial words and these adversarial concepts, so it makes it different. No, it doesn't. It's still the same concept. No matter how you sugarcoat it, dress it, it's still the same concept. You're still trying to merge into something and still destroy something about yourself. How about using it and merging it into a true you, a true total union of yourself, and not trying to always destroy things about yourself? That's why in so many classes I say devour or destroy. I say devour first for a reason, because devouring is taking that energy, absorbing it, and transmuting it into something else. Destroying is just something that you know you've got to eliminate, because no matter what you do, it's just not going to help. Okay? There's a difference in that reality. We hold on to these concepts and it's limiting our potential to grow and transform. It's limiting our potential because we still seeking everything but our true self, everything but who we are. See, we still want to be some big figure in a conscious community, let's say, or we want to be accepted by a lot of people, or we still want to be important. So we set out on this journey and we, get caught up in becoming some glorified teacher or some spiritual guru. And that is a problem. This is why I stopped, or I eased back from YouTube as much, because my focus is on people who sincerely want to learn, not people who want to get their ego massaged, not people who want to listen to a lecture and feel good about themselves after the lecture, but then they go right back out and do the same habitual crap that leads them to misery. I focused on people who sincerely want to take a journey within themselves and try to be of some sort of assistance to people, because this journey is not easy. It is not easy in the least bit. People forget, when you take a journey in here, you are crossing your boundaries. If you have yet to cross your boundaries, you playing it safe. This is not the place for you. We don't play things safe on the left-hand path. We expose our comfortability. We expose our hesitations and cautiousness for what it is. The ability to not dive deep into your growth, your development and transformation, your apotheosis, reaching the level of self-deification. So we sometimes sit back and we stay within these boundaries that make us still feel comfortable. We stay within we create these certain parameters where we expand the parameters a little bit, these boundaries a little bit, but not enough where we feel uncomfortable. If you're still in the left-hand path and you feel uncomfortable, you ain't doing shit. I'm being honest. Accept it for what it is. Don't agree with it. I don't care. You will find out on your own due time. If you still playing it safe and you still feeling comfortable, you ain't doing shit. You should feel very uncomfortable right now. You should feel so uncomfortable, you don't know if you're coming or going sometimes. You should feel so uncomfortable, you ain't sure about yourself sometimes. You should feel so uncomfortable, you can't sleep sometimes. You should feel extremely uncomfortable when you see that you're lying to yourself many times. I can't tell you how many people came in as a couple on this path, came in as a couple. You know how many of those people I know personally that are still together? 0. One wanted to play it safe, one delved deep into it. And you know what happened? The person that delved deep into it, they found more about themselves and they realized I'm living a lie and I'm in a situation where I should never be in and I'm miserable. So I need to do something about this situation. That's being uncomfortable. Sometimes people stay in relationships because it's comfortable. People have been married with other people for 50 years and the love stopped a long time ago. They're there because the person makes them feel comfortable. The person is there as a support system. That's all good and dandy. But if a person truly loves you, they're going to challenge the shit out of you to you grow, and you should challenge the shit out of them too, so you both are growing together. If one is not growing over the other, then that person who's stagnant eventually is going to fade away and disappear. If you came in with your friends, you've noticed that already. If you came into the left-hand path with your friends, the people who are stagnant, not willing to push the envelope, so to speak, have disappeared. Those who are willing to keep pushing and pushing, they're still here. Because if you're not willing to push that envelope, you're not willing to really do work on yourself. You should feel exposed. You should feel vulnerable. You should feel like, oh, what the heck is happening to me? If you haven't reached that point yet, it's because you're playing it safe. You're not allowing yourself to explore your true demonic self and listen to the guidance from the true self. The true self is basically trying to use the unconscious and the subconscious through dream work to try to communicate to you about your BS. But here's the problem. People get it twisted in their dreams a lot. And I've said this over and over, and you can verify this on your own if you study and go into dream psychology, different things. They verify this through clinical studies and things like that. 95% of dreams are about you. I don't care if you see Lilith coming to you in a dream. Lilith ain't there. Who's there is your true self in the form of Lilith trying to communicate to you because you need to see Lilith in your mind. So it appears as Lilith, but that's really your true self utilizing a form that your true self understands you're seeking and needing. So here I come. These are the people that say, oh, Lilith came to me and told me, or Kali came to me. None of that should happen. In your subjective realm, in your dream world and all that shit, yes, it happened. But your subjective is just that. It's subjective. That's based upon how you look at it. That's not objective where we all looking at it and seeing it. So if you feel you need a Lilith, then that's what your true self or demonic self utilizes. It's an archetype, it's an energy, and it's a force that can be utilized to communicate to you about yourself. And if you see Lilith in a dream, 95% of the time, that dream is trying to tell you about yourself. For example, let's say you're in a dream and you see water, and water's coming at you. And it looks like this water, big wall of water is coming, and then the water covers you, and you're in the water, and you're in the dark. It's dark water. What does that mean? Possibly mean, well, water in the left-hand path can represent the abyss, your subconscious mind. So literally, the water represents that there's some things in your subconscious mind that are drowning your reality, that are drowning your life because you're not paying attention to it. Because you think literally Lilith is there telling you something, and it's not. It's yourself trying to tell you something about you. But we need this grandiose imagery to say, oh my God, Lilith came to me and she said, I'm head honcho number one. I'm that hot bitch of the year. I can't tell you how many times I've seen YouTube niggas say that dumb shit and over, and I'm the greatest, and fuck you, you ain't shit. Because a lot of times your ass is still doing the same old shit you did before you came into any work. So you're not as hot shit as you think you are if you're still repeating the same habitual pattern before you got into some level of esoteric knowledge. What you should be saying is, I ain't shit, because my dreams keep showing me about my shit that I'm not focusing on, shit I'm avoiding, shit I'm ignoring. If your mama comes to you in your dream, I'm gonna show you how people a lot of times misinterpret that. Oh, my mama came into my dream, and your mama might have been passed away, or she's still alive, right? And then she passed in a dream, your mama died. So they freak out and they start calling mama. So, mama, I saw you die in a dream. Oh my God, I'm worried. That's not what happened. 9 times out of 10, your mama represents you. You and your mama represents something about you that you're not seeing. So this imagery, this archetype of your mom is representing something about yourself that you're not acknowledging within yourself. You could have had mama issues. And so therefore, mama represents this kind of figure, authoritative figure, that's showing you still cower down to authoritative figures, let's say. Or it could be showing that you're not in tune with a certain aspect of your motherly nature. That's one thing. It could be various things, but it's you usually in that dream. Mostly everything, every person you see in a dream is usually about you. It's not about that person per se. It's usually about you. So if your mama or your sister or some friend of yours dies in a dream, that means something about you has to die. I'm not saying that's always what it means. I'm just giving you examples of what it possibly can mean. But it usually represents something about you. So if they die, that means something about you is not dying, and that which is not dying within you is something within that very person that reflects upon you. There's a reflection of that person about you, and you're not letting that die. So therefore, it keeps ruining your life, creating issues in your life, misery in your life, because you're acting just like your mama. And your mama might have been a miserable woman at the time of her death, or if she's still living, she's become a miserable woman because she allowed her husband to cheat on her 50 times. But she stood with him for the sake of the marriage and the kids. Meanwhile, he's out having a blast, and she's here deteriorating away. Sad realities of life, but these are realities that are created many times in our subconscious mind because of what we observe for the first 7 years of our life. We then start to act that out. So if your mama was passive and she allowed her husband to do all these things, you naturally, from observing her, have been programmed to think that's how a woman is supposed to behave. So you start behaving the same way and don't even realize that shit till later. A lot of times, these are the women that say, oh, I've been cheated on. Men suck. They're miserable. They're assholes at this. No, that's not what happened. What happened is you opened the door for that because you created this concept in your mind from your programming that that's a woman's behavior is this, and if I step outside of that, then it's wrong. It's not wrong. It's standing up for yourself and being that true demonic feminine, that warrior goddess who's gonna stand up and be that warrior, not let people step all over her and run her and ruin her and manipulate and abuse her. None of that stuff. You're gonna stand up and this is what it is. You don't like it, keep it moving. There's plenty of other people out there. That's sad reality, but I'm just trying to go further than I did in the last video about this concept about the demonic feminine, demonic masculine. We're not allowing ourselves to be these warrior type energies or forces that we are naturally like many times. How do I know? Because many of y'all who came here into the left-hand path were attracted because what you heard or read or saw resonated with you because it's naturally a part of you. And so it's attracting you into this work because it's your higher or your true self is telling you this is what you need. This is what you need. This is the kind of work you need to really wake you up, to really do the work. But again, like I said, we get too comfortable in our work. We don't realize listen, we get too comfortable. Many of us are very uncomfortable in situations where we feel at a loss, where we feel we're not in control. But I've shared this with many people, and I learned this myself walking the left-hand path. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself. Let me break that down now because I haven't really broke it down in a lot of classes or videos. Basically, what that means, you have to be able to lose all the things about who you think you are that created this situation in your life that you've been unhappy about, that hasn't allowed you to reach your potential and all these things. You have to be able to, you have to be willing to lose all of that. But you have to know in your mind that when you let it all go and lose all of that and confront and deal with every trauma, issue, programming that you've ever had, then you will now find yourself again and be greater than you were before. That's kind of hard for people. Being real, it's kind of hard for people because people love to hold on to things. It's what makes us feel comfortable. That is actually one of your biggest weaknesses. People don't like to feel uncomfortable. Human nature is to run from feeling uncomfortable. Why do you think a pandemic is so effective in controlling the minds of the people? Because if you feel uncomfortable and you feel like your death is around the corner, you are more apt to fall in line. You are more apt to listen to orders than to stand up for yourself and think as an independent person. People don't want the uncomfortability of a possible death. I don't want to die. See, humans' weaknesses are being exposed through this pandemic. Many people will tell you, I'm not afraid of death, but yet they're masked up. All masked up, wearing gloves. They're the type of people who say, I'm not afraid of death, but they're in their cars with a mask and nobody's in the car with them. You know, those people, I'm sure y'all seen them driving and you're like, yo, this person got masks and gloves in the car and no one's with them. Oh, I forgot. The virus can come through the vents. Oh my God, we'll close the vents. Anyways, it's just nonsense stuff, but many people are uncomfortable holding that knife to themselves that cuts off that programming, that habitual patterns, and all these things that you've developed over time. They're afraid holding that knife to themselves to cut loose because they like in their mind, they think, damn, if I cut away from this, what's next? What's next is you finding your true self. But we've created such an identity to that old self that we're afraid if I cut that, I'm lost. I don't know who I am no more. No, You will find who you are because you're cutting the illusion away. And therefore, you will find who you truly are beyond the illusions and delusions that we currently live in. But you have to be willing to cut it away. And that's where people go astray. When they start to work this path and they start to find themselves facing these parts about themselves, it throws them off. You have people coming this path that are super scientists. They're like so super scientists or super psychologists that they don't even realize that they're in a box themselves, because they're basing everything upon psychology, which is already a pre-formatted system, or science as they call it, of how the mind works and operates and all the things that come from it. You got to be able to step outside of all these boxes. You got to be able to step outside. And the hardest thing humans have a problem with is stepping outside and looking back at themselves. Now you're looking back at yourself. What the hell do you see? Oh, do you see how frail you are? How weak you are? Let me tell you, a lot of these dudes that profess to be divine masculine, I'm so divine masculine, are real. If you really expose them, and you snatch their skin off, you will see frail little boys sitting there. Scary little boys or scary little girls sitting there. You wouldn't see a real man. They're just putting on a persona as if they are. A real man can expose and rip apart all the falsehood he's created about himself to get down to the nitty-gritty of who he is. It's not an easy task. But to work the divine masculine path and divine feminine path, you gotta let go of holding on to shit. You gotta let go of, oh, it's gotta be like this, or if not, if it ain't like this, I'm not giving in. I'm not gonna do this. Why? Because it doesn't fit into the neat description of what you want things to be. It's not like that in this path. Most of the time, it's the very things that you are most afraid of are the very things that are gonna help you. I'll give you an example. I have a fear of heights that has now been minimized to a great extent. And when I realized that through this ritual work, I challenged myself. I went ziplining in the mountains. I'm not talking about no little mountains. Well, people will call hills. We weren't in no hills. We were in the mountains. I think we were 5,000 feet up or something like that. Okay? When I look down, if that zip line broke, I ain't surviving, buddy. I don't give a damn what the hell, how spiritual I am. This physical body is most likely done. But I faced those fears of being up in great heights, moving. It's not just that. I was moving in top speed. I think the top speed was like 30 miles, 40 miles an hour, zipping across the line. You know how scary that is for someone who's afraid of heights? And that's not even the worst part. And I told y'all this before. In Puerto Rico, when I did that zip line, the last zip line, the very last zip line, I get stuck. 3/4 to the last station, I'm stuck 3/4 away. Do you know how my fear rose up really fast? And I'm looking down like, yo, son, I'm stuck. Like, I'm literally stuck here. And I start, the way they show you how you can use the rope to push yourself across, that shit wasn't working because the zip line clip kept sticking in my hands, or the gloves I had on. So they had to come out and get me. I had to breathe deeply and compose myself before I freaked the hell out. And I realized, okay, that was a big weakness of mine, but I conquered it because I faced my fear of heights, literally being stuck there looking down and saying, okay, I'm either going to die or I'm going to control myself and I'm going to get it together and we're going to get through this. Challenge yourself always. Always is the key to success on this path. If you're not challenging yourself, that could be possibly why stuff, let's say, for example, why work may not necessarily be, or your results are not necessarily manifesting. You might not be challenging yourself enough. And you know how I'll tell you when you know you're challenging yourself enough? When you feel like I told you earlier, when you feel totally lost and you feel totally off balance and you don't know whether you're coming or going, that's when you're really challenging yourself. Because see, now you're breaking past your own created boundaries. When you get past that and you on the other side, no man's land, like they say, then you know you've done some work. Because there ain't no going back once you cross that threshold. It's forevermore going forward. It's gonna change you completely. The infernal path toward enlightenment is hardly a leisurely stroll. I like to say endarkment, but people still use the word enlightenment. Therefore, that's why I tell you some of this shit is just irritates me. But anyways, the infernal path toward endarkment is hardly a leisure stroll. And this is for some of y'all. This next part here is for some of y'all who face this in your work, so that you can understand that this is part of what happens in your work. The left-hand path is a road full of depression, an extreme sense of alienation, isolation, physical ailments, sadness, anger, frustration, and then all of a sudden you hit the opposite side of joy, happiness, arousal, extreme energy. Yeah. Depression is a symptom of spiritual evolution. It is something that naturally happens when you're doing true spiritual work. You're going to be depressed. What's happening is essentially your true self, the demonic self, is starting to see past the finite ego, the finite spirit that has been created to exist in this world. And it's starting to understand that life that you currently may be living has been unfulfilling. And it's a bunch of nonsense. This is why sometimes when you walk this path, just going to be real with you, some people sometimes face suicidal thoughts. It's not because they want to commit suicide, it's because they're seeing themselves and releasing all of the pain, the trauma, the abuse, the whatever they faced for all these years. They're seeing it now. They're seeing their life for what it is to that point. And it can bring a tremendous thoughts of suicidal. It can bring tremendous depression, but you can't stop. Because on the other side of that is tremendous growth and transformation and development. It is tremendous growth. Sometimes sad reality is it takes more than one lifetime to fully reach endarkment or enlightenment. To truly reach that pinnacle, it may take more than one lifetime. This is why in the left-hand path, we say this work is eternal. This is why Luciferians, when they reach a Luciferian mind state, they become immortal in mind, not in body. This body's going to perish eventually one day. It's in mind. Our minds become immortal. So when we translate and we discover what death is, because no one truly knows what death is until we experience it. I don't care who wrote about it. The Mayans could have wrote about it. The Tibetans could have wrote about it. That's all good and dandy. But till you get there, you ain't going to know how real that is. But if you have created an immortal mind while in the physical existence, then your mind is more equipped to deal with death And the work continues in that new existence. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Yes, it can be difficult reaching endarkment in this society, in this world we live in. There's a bunch of distractions in this world. There's paying bills. There's doing this. There's a bunch of stuff that stops us from reaching endarkment or enlightenment. There is. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is why people sometimes separate themselves from society and go into a hermit mode, or they become monks or things like that. It's because society is not built to allow you to reach that. It's built to keep you within a slave mind, slave status. But if you can face this reality of the distractions of this physical world you're living in and still push yourself to reach that endarkment, there's nothing that's ever going to stop you in your journey to apotheosis. Nothing will stop you. See, people seek the easy way out. Okay, I'm gonna go into the wilderness and just meditate all day and night. That's great. But to truly reach endarkment, if you are able to do this with this distracting world and the chaos of the world, you really did something then. You really did something then if you're able to do it in the midst of this world. Because with all the stuff going on, you still do and dedicate time to yourself, you get a big brownie points for that. Not someone giving you brownie points, you giving yourself brownie points. Ain't no one there waiting to give you some brownie points. So this is a reality that unfortunately many had not faced yet. Now, a good system to do is this: once a week, or at least twice a week, isolate yourself from everybody if you can, and be in a room in darkness. Just sit in a room in darkness with you and yourself. See how long you can sit there before your mind starts to distract you. Well, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Here's the real reality. Whether you do it now or later, that shit's still gonna be there for you to have to do. So take a little time and focus on yourself. And when you're done, that stuff will still be sitting there for you to have to do. Nothing is gonna stop that you have to do that. There's responsibilities we all have as human beings. But if you can't take some time for yourself to separate yourself from this world, then maybe we don't deserve the fruits of our labor. We don't deserve to reach levels of endarkment because we're not taking time for ourselves. Face yourself and always remember to pamper yourself. Stop, breathe, breathe deeply, and just stop everything you're doing and remember, pamper yourself, take care of yourself. No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So let's remember, this work never ends. This work is eternal and will always be eternal. But you have to release yourself from the bondages of this world, bondages that have held us back. And most of the time, beyond society's bondages, we created our own personal bondages that have messed us up. Messed us up because we're still allowing it to mess us up. We're still allowing it to control us. And we could do something about it. We could truly take control of our lives. When we start to learn how to integrate true self with the actor and actress that we are living to exist today, then you will see a true change in your life. When you start to allow the true self to run the show. not the subconscious program self, not the conscious self that can be distracted easily, but the true self that represents that eye on top of the pyramid, that represents that true Luciferianism, that true torchbearer, true intellect, taking control of your life is what we must do as practitioners of the left-hand path. Challenging yourself is something that should be done on the left-hand path. Breaking beyond your borders and boundaries and realizing that you have borders and boundaries is something we all have to do. If you don't, you're only going to get so far in this work, and you're only going to get a little bit of results. Those who are willing to break free from all that and challenge themselves eternally are the ones who truly reach apotheosis and become that God over self. They're the ones who truly become that master over self. Not just a pretend self, not just a half a self, the true self. We're all under attack right now in this world. Your freedoms are being jeopardized. You're being forced to do this or lose a job. You're being forced to do. No one should ever have to face that. But the reality is, if you start operating from the true self, you will be ready when that stuff comes, because you'll have prepared yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, where you'll have other alternative means to survive if it ever came down to things like that. But you know why people don't have alternative means to survive? Because that means they still trust their employers. They still trust this society. They still trust so-called authority figures to have their best interest. Nah, sorry. We're all being played. We're all, listen, Richard K. Page said it best in his Luciferian books that he put out. He said we're all slaves. Doesn't matter if you're enlightened or endarkened. We're all slaves. The difference is you either work for yourself or you work for somebody else. You work for yourself, you have a little more freedom, but you're still a slave because you're still paying taxes. You still have to follow certain rules and regulations of business and all these things. See, it's all nice and lovely, neatly packaged, where we're still within this matrix. Now, how much you break free, there's still all these borders, boundaries, limitations that they've created for this society. But we can't get wrapped up in all this external stuff. Because in order to master society, you first have to master yourself. People do this shit backwards. They're so worried about the outside world that their inner world is in shambles. The inner world is straight chaos, and they have no idea how to control it, master it, and bring power through it or from it. So they focus so much on the external world. You have your conspiracy theorists who get so caught up in conspiracies. Yes, there's a lot of facts in conspiracies, but there's also a lot of falsehood in conspiracies. Because one thing I learned years ago when I was a conspiracy theory buff is a lot of conspiracy theories are put out by the very people you're trying to expose. So for example, let's say there is a brotherhood or sisterhood or familyhood of Illuminati. The very people releasing information about the Illuminati are putting that information out there so that they could distract you from what the real work of the Illuminati is. So we're being thrown all this conspiracy information, so to speak, and never fully have the full picture, because while you think you got this figured out here, they're 10 steps ahead of you. You better believe this and research it for yourself. The stuff you finding out now is already 10 years old. I'll give you an example. Go back and watch the older sci-fi movies, Minority Report. Which other ones? You can watch older ones from the 80s, Escape from New York, Soylent Green. Watch a lot of these older movies and watch how now 20, 30, 40, 50 years now, all this shit is starting to happen now. We're in the midst of what they were showing in those movies back then. Rewatch Contagion again. Watch it again. Watch Contagion again. If you have Hulu, I think it's on Hulu right now. Watch Contagion again and watch how everything you see in Contagion is nearly a replica of what we're living in today. Right now, this very moment. Now, did the director know something? Was the director trying to put information out and try to awaken those, yo, this stuff can happen? Or did we just interpret as, oh, that's just entertainment? That's never going to happen. Yes. Look at the older movies like Terminator. A lot of that technology we presently have now. We presently are living in the midst of the technology that they showed in the Terminator movies. It's not so much always sci-fi. Is they use sci-fi to show you things that they already have created technology-wise, and they're just bringing it out to us now. They're perfecting that craft. They're bringing all that stuff out now. Go watch a lot of those old movies. You're going to be like, holy shit. How the hell? Watch The Matrix again. Because Matrix Part 4 comes out in December. Watch all three of them before December. Watch that movie closely and you'll be like, holy shit, all this shit is real. That, like all that stuff they showed in The Matrix is happening right now. Go watch World War Z. Go watch a lot of these movies. You're going to be like, holy crap. Especially go watch this movie, The Belko Experiment. How they shut down an office building and people literally have to resort back to their primordial nature to survive. Watch it. Don't people be like, oh, that can never happen. Yes, it can. Most of us are in an experiment right now. We either created this experiment or we're in an experiment. And when you start to observe things from your true self, looking outward instead of observing yourself from this way, you start to really see things and put it all together and be more in control. All right, I'm going to take a few questions and we'll wrap it up. Shemaine.
Hi, everyone. How can I make this short? Okay, so I was looking at a video, apparently like a high magician. He's a high magician. And I was just thinking about what you were talking about, how, the subconscious mind, that you experience depression and things like that. At any point, did you ever feel that you thought you had to commit yourself to like a mental institution or something? Because this particular high magician talked about how he worked with, he didn't say exactly which gods, but the dark ones or whatever. And he went to some place, I don't know if it was astrally or in his head or whatever, but he thought that he had to commit himself at some point. So I'm just wondering, what are you what is that? I don't know if I'm asking the right question, but what is all that? Like, I mean, is that about him not listening to what the energies or the subconscious mind was telling him that he needed to deal with? Or was he, I don't know. What is that?
Well, all right, check this out. So sometimes when those things happen, it's because we have a lot of trapped emotions, a lot of trapped energy, and a lot of things like that. When they come to the surface, will make us feel like we're going crazy. So crazy that we literally feel like, yo, I might need to commit myself, because we have suicidal thoughts. We're in extreme depression. Sometimes we feel like we want to just kill people. I mean, all these things can come out, but they come out because we never dealt with them.
Wow.
Okay, so there's suppressed thoughts. There's things that we may have witnessed as children, violent behavior from our parents or people like that, and we trapped it in here. And then because we never had an outlet, because, you know, in America, we have a tendency to sweep everything under the rug. We don't really talk about things a lot of times with our kids or family or whatever. So what happens is these things sit inside of the kids, and sometimes years later they become serial killers. They become, you understand, things like that. And so when you start doing this work, and that, for example, that magician felt that he had to commit himself, is because sometimes people are not ready to do this work. I'm gonna be honest with you. This not work is not for everybody, because you're literally opening gateways and portals to shit that may F you up. And that means the gateways and portals, not some external, like, you know, sci-fi kind of thing all the time. It's gateways and portals in your mind of things about you that you may not really be ready to hear or see.
So it's not external. It's not an external thing.
No, it's usually something inside of you. So it's like this primordial part of yourself will take you back to the most primordial part of existence. Is dealing with, okay, I'll put it like this. The more you work on this and you work with these archetypes, people, they call them demons, dark gods, whatever, the more you start to realize that all this human construct called morality and all that stuff doesn't exist. It's created here for us to live in a certain shape, in a certain fashion, so we stay in this nice pattern of behavior, right? So when you start to find this out, and these forces don't have morality, these forces don't have the same human conditioning of what's right, what's wrong, what's this, and you start to see all this stuff in your mind, you're seeing all this stuff like, what the hell? It can throw you off because you tapped into the most darkest part of yourself that in this society has been shunned. You might have seen crazy thoughts, ideas, things about yourself, and you think you crazy now. So you say, yo, I need to commit myself with something because I can hurt someone. I can do this and this, because you opened yourself up to it, because you might not have totally been ready for that part of yourself. So this is why the work starts off gradually and then gets harder, and you should take it in those steps, because as you get to the harder parts, you should have developed enough working sense to know, okay, some shit's gonna come up, but I'm more prepared to deal with it. I'm more prepared to deal with these darker aspects of myself that are not gonna throw me off as much as possible. You understand? For example, something like a lot of people don't realize, a millionaire, I know a millionaire who actually said it, I just can't remember which one, but in so many words, he said a millionaire mind is a left-hand path mind. See, people on the left-hand path have a millionaire mind, because to survive and succeed in business is not a friendly proposition. Business is very cutthroat, and these people literally are cutthroat. You understand? I've had real estate investment deals lined up, and somebody snatched that right from me because they were cutthroat and just cut right around us to get the deal. And the person who's handling the deal is all about the money. So they don't care who gets there first or who does what, or you could have an agreement or principle. Give me the money. That's what they care about. You understand? So that kind of mindset in the left-hand path, you understand that mindset of a sadistic person or a gruesome, ruthless person, and it prepares you how to navigate those waters and not be defeated by that mindset, because you understand it. So if you understand that mindset within yourself, you can see it in someone else. Therefore, you have a greater understanding of how to utilize and be before cause and effect, or before a certain situation happens, you're ready for that because you tapped into that part of yourself. Well, a lot of people get defeated in business because they're too nice. You can't be too nice. You literally, you deal with a lot of these people in the movie industry and different things like that. Assholes. Straight assholes, yo.
It's true.
But how did they get there? They got there because they saw you have to be this kind of way to succeed in business. And unfortunately, that's how people get devoured sometimes when they get into the business worlds, because they haven't tapped into that part of themselves as a spiritual predator you would understand that as a spiritual predator or vampire, as people say, you would be like, nah, I ain't gonna get devoured. I'm doing the devouring here. And that's when you start to succeed in business. But if we still have that morality of what's right or wrong, this and that, then we sometimes get defeated like that. Because, oh, that wasn't right. Business has no real ethics, yo.
No, they don't.
Bottom line, business does not have real ethics. They have pretend ethics that is nice and, you know, trimmed out and okay, this what it is.
Yeah,
no.
negotiations and discussions and yeah. I know the terms, yeah.
Yeah, it's all nice terms, but they're really not like that. So what happens is, if when you start working the magic on yourself, you start to feel that you've crossed the threshold and you're uncomfortable now. You're now opening the door to see this most heinous things about yourself sometimes. And if a lot of people are not ready, they will go cuckoo, or they become very depressed. They become extremely sad. Right, and sometimes people quit at that very point, and therefore they stay in that depressed state long after they left the left-hand path, and they carry that with them. This is why sometimes you have people who get into the left-hand path, or they, you know, tiptoe in and out, and they're goths, they're gothics, right? And then gothics have this thing about being dark and, you know, gruesome and depressed all the time and all that shit. That's some of them. I'm not saying all of them. There's some of them. There's a small group of them that think like that. So they glorify being depressed and suicidal. That's what they glorify.
Yeah.
You understand? Because when they got into this, they were not literally ready for that to come out of there. So they got stuck right there. You have to be able to be strong. You have to be ruthless with yourself and brutal with yourself enough to say, nothing's going to trap me. That happened in the past. I'm not going back there again. You understand? I'm not living that again. I'm going to be in control. And you'll start to break free from the depression, break free from the anger and the sadness. You know what I mean? Because that's what happens to a lot of people. They lose it because they didn't know they were that dark inside themselves. They didn't know they had these things inside themselves. They opened the door and they saw themselves as Michael Myers, and they said, holy shit, that shit really is inside of me. I don't just like the horror movies because I like them. That shit really is inside of me. And it scares them. You understand? It scares the crap out of them. Now they think they're even worse than they were before, some of them.
Yeah.
That's how the work is sometimes.
So the middle pillar, some describes themselves as the middle pillar. Is that just a comfort zone? Yeah.
Those who are in the middle path or the gray path or all this, that's the safe zone.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit dark, but I'm still enough light where I can be safe. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That happens a lot. It's like invest in yourself. If you invest in yourself, you're either all in to go as far as you have to, or you just stay safe and go over there. Because if you really want to master yourself, you're going to have to go all in. You just can't hit a little bit. Oh, I went a little bit underneath the surface and I found out this. Oh, I did some work. That's a lot of this new modern day shadow work, by the way.
Yeah.
New terms. I mean, this new shadow work in the conscious community, all that. They just doing little under the surface layer work. And they think, oh, I did some shadow work. You ain't do shit. You want to know when you do shit? Tell them to go into the clip off. Tell them to go into some of this vampiric demonic work and shit like that. That's when you're doing some shit. When you see the craziest stuff come up, you see some spirits bouncing around you or some shadows and you see red eyes looking at you. You're like, okay, am I tripping? What the hell's going on? That's when you know you're doing some stuff. That doesn't mean you're always going to see something. That just means that things that are out of the ordinary happen within here and outside of you. You get in a car accident. Oh my God, I got in a car accident. I didn't do my ritual work right. No, how about you did it right? That was the chaos that was necessary for the catalyst. That was the catalyst you needed to wake up. So you got in a car accident because that was the chaos necessary. Doesn't mean you're being punished. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean none of that shit like a lot of people superstitiously interpret it as. It means you needed a chaos to hit your life, and that could have been what was necessary to trigger you to really get serious by going in deep inside yourself. Until then, you were just faking the funk. And that happens a lot of times.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then. Thank you.
All right, cool. Yvette, you next.
I don't have anything to contribute at this time, but I will say it's a very good class. And
all right, cool. Well, you know, we'll talk in your class during the week.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
All right. Mika, any questions?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I asked you this before. I don't remember, but you know, like when you work with different archetypes, just say like Abaddon, Belial, Lucifer. Is it like, do you ever get to a point where you like constantly want to like hurt people?
Yes. All of that can happen.
Angry all the time and stuff like that?
Yes. Remember, Abaddon is destruction. So it's going to open up this very destructive part of yourself.
Right.
The trick is this: when you're doing a ritual, you're directing that energy that you're utilizing to destroy things about yourself that need to go. What happens sometimes, people forget they're in control of the ritual, and this energy consumes them, it devours them. And therefore, they start getting consumed by becoming destructive themselves in a harmful way externally. All this shit is always done and focused internally, inside yourself, destroying things about yourself that need to go. Sometimes it's just shit that needs to go. But if you don't channel that and direct that, then you can be consumed by it and then start to be devoured by that energy and turn into a person who wants to literally hurt people now. And that happens a lot because people play with this and they're not really ready for, or they thought they were, and they become raving lunatics who become killers and just want to F people up and hurt people. And all they want to do is physically get violent all the time. That's because they open the gateway to themselves and don't realize that that's already inside of you. And this might be why Abaddon resonates with you. And now you just want to whip everybody's ass because you didn't direct it to whip your own ass. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I asked that because something happened today at work. I kind of like lost it. I mean, I didn't like really physically lose it, but I was like, I lost it with my mouth at work. And I was like, somebody kept staring at me at work. And I was like, what the fuck are you staring at? And it kind of like irritated me to a point where I had to go back and confront that person and tell them to leave me the fuck alone and stop staring at me. So it was just like, and the whole day I was just like pissed off.
Well, sometimes that I wouldn't say that's necessarily making you want to destroy people. Sometimes that's just standing up for yourself because some people just don't know when to stop staring, or it becomes a problem because they're making you feel a certain kind of way. Them staring at you may be making you feel uncomfortable. And sometimes there's a good uncomfortable, and then there's this uncomfortable where you feel like this person up to no good. So you should address it. That's just being more aggressive. That's not necessarily wanting to just whip ass and destroy people. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's a more of a being a warrior and protecting yourself because you feel a certain energy from that person that is not vibing with you. So yeah, you should address it before it gets out of hand. Address it immediately. That's different. What I'm referring to is the kind of where you just go on a rampage wanting to fight everybody and destroy everybody for no damn reason. You just bloodlusting now. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's different. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Cool. Kevin, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions right now. Thanks.
Right. Cool, bro. All right. Liz, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a story I'd like to share.
Sure, go ahead.
So I've been an avid hiker for several years. And just a few months ago, I recently started to backpack. So, you know, you get all your shit on your back, you hike into the forest, wherever you're going, you take your food, you have to get water from the stream through the filter, you know, that whole thing.
Right.
So backpacking is extremely difficult. It's very uncomfortable and it's not fun, especially when you're carrying all that load and you're going a certain amount of distance. Okay. So that one is, it's challenge in itself. Well, I was hiking in Wyoming, Yellowstone, and I decided, hey, you know, I want to kind of challenge myself and hike. And I always hike alone. I'll backpack alone as well. I want to challenge myself, and I found an area where, you know, it's like bear country. So grizzly bears are everywhere there, like everywhere. And so I didn't know, some spaces are open where you can kind of see further down. But when I got on this particular trail, it was really closed in, like really closed in, so you wouldn't be able to see a bear until it was right in front of you, kind of thing. So I got really scared. I was like, no, it's fine, you know. And so I just kept on going. And then I had a little opening where I could see a little bit. But the further and further I got, the scareder I got. I swear I was going to die. Like I promise you, like the fear was so raw and intense. I was so terrified. I don't even know why, but it was so intense that I started breaking down crying, like, I just want to go. I just want to camp. I just want to do this. But I was so terrified that I would run into a grizzly bear and that they would maul me to death. And grizzlies do not play. So I don't even want to run into this. And I backpack, I hike alone. I did have bear spray, but still, you know, you just don't want to run. You don't want to run into a grizzly, you know, anyways. So I eventually went back. And I didn't stay because I just had an overwhelming sense of pure terror. And not often do I feel that other than in nature, where you can completely be obliterated by anything, really, you know, like natural disasters or animals, whatever. But it ended up being very good for me because it let me know that I was doing something where I was trying to conquer, you know, trying to be brave and conquer. And I'm going to go back and do it again. But, you know, just that raw fear, I think, is really healthy to have, as long as you keep on challenging yourself and you don't like stop. So I will, you know, continue to backpack, even though it sucks. I will continue to probably go in areas where there is going to be animals. And more than likely, I'm going to be alone. Is it probably not the wisest idea all the time? Well, maybe, but it's still something that I enjoy and I like to do. So therefore, I'm going to do it anyways. So that was just a little story I wanted to share. Sorry, I don't know if I muted. Oh, just 1 second. Can you repeat that?
Bravado, we can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I was like, is that me? Okay.
No, see, I was saying that it shows what raw fear is like, your story. Raw fear is something that you can't predict is going to happen. It just happens. And what do you do at that very moment when you're facing it? It shows that, okay, you faced that, you survived it, but do you cower from it? And you're showing that, no, I got to keep pushing past it. That's what this life is all about. The very things that can make you give up is the very things that make you stronger if you keep going past it. I think Friedrich Nietzsche said it best. The things that don't kill you will only make you stronger. That's literally what we live, that model right there. That is what we live as on the left-hand path. Whatever doesn't kill you can only make you stronger. You got to be willing sometimes to sacrifice and push yourself into situations that are the hardest for you to face, but you got to face it.
Absolutely. And definitely like things when you talked about your fear of heights, that's one thing. So even if people don't do it magically, they can always do it, other ways through, physical means, because yeah, backpacking I thought, because I'm a I'm a advanced hiker, so I thought backpacking would be easy, and it's completely different. It's completely different. I had no idea. I thought, I'm like, it's fine. The animals are fine. I'm going to go where all the bears are. It's going to be great. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't see anything. I'm so scared. So it's a humbling experience as well. So
that is, but that's a good experience though, because it teaches you a lot about spiritual predatorism and prey. You could have been a prey at that moment, but you actually stood more in control as a predator. You know what I'm saying? So that teaches a lot. And going into nature, I always recommend that to people. Go into nature. That's why some of the rituals I give people, go into nature, because you face the greatest fears in nature sometimes. One of the rituals I told people before, go into a dark forest at night.
yeah, it's
you think
it's
people
trippy.
think they're so brave.
Uncomfortable for sure.
As you start hearing at night, especially in the woods, you start hearing everything imaginable. You're like, wait a second, is that a person? Is that an animal breathing like that? Wait, what is that?
I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
How can you tell the difference between when your mind is telling you there's danger coming, you need to leave, versus you trying to get over your fear? How can you tell the difference? Because I remember getting ready to go to work one day, and something said, shut the door, go back in the house and shut the door.
Right.
So I did. And I waited a few extra minutes, and then I waited about 5 minutes, and then I got in the car and went to work. Nothing happened. But how do I know the difference between my mind telling me that you're in danger, you need to leave?
Yeah, that was a warning spirit for me. Yeah, that was a warning spirit. Like the spirits were warning me because bugs started attacking me. They came out of nowhere. It was like there was a wall, like, don't go any further. Don't. And when I went further, I felt it worse. Felt it worse. So that was a warning, and I can get the picture. I get the picture. I'm like, okay, well, so actually something seriously might have happened. I'm 100% convinced, because I've had those situations before where they're like, don't go further. So in that case, how I use it to kind of differentiate is I had no reason at that moment to be fearful. I just got that feeling. That's how I know the difference. I didn't see any bears. I didn't hear anything, but then all these bugs started biting me out of nowhere. They would not stop. I tried to, get them off. They would not stop. I got really anxious, really scared. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to keep on going. And then it got worse. So you'll know, because it's your mind doesn't understand what's going on, but you feel that something is off, really wrong.
Yeah. Normally that's the best way to dictate between facing your fear and actually real fear. Normally, if it's real fear, your whole body will literally warn you. You'll have your hair stand up. You'll have your adrenaline rush throughout your body, and your senses become really attuned. Like your senses become more keen, as they say, where every noise, everything is heightened, because your body literally goes into flight or fight response, because it knows it has to survive. Facing your fear is like saying, oh, I gotta go skydiving because I'm afraid of heights. And you're like, but you're still kind of more in control of that situation. But raw primal fear is just like, it just hits like it's not expected. You understand? It's like there's someone literally there, so go back in the house. You just can't see him, but if someone, that's a warning. That's your instinct saying, nah, get the hell out of here. Go and be, to a protected area. But when you go face it, okay, well, I'm going to do this. You get what I'm saying? I'm actually going to do this, and I'm going to face this. It's a big difference. Whereas when that is unexpected, your whole body is going to warn you. It's your mind, your body, and your senses all just activate. And you're like, nope, this doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell like when somebody's following you. Let's say you're leaving from work and you're walking home or you're walking to your car. You can tell when somebody's following you because your body and your mind start to become really attuned to everything, and you feel your hair stand up and you're like, I gotta get to the car, right? As opposed to, well, it's dark, it's late at night, and I'm gonna walk to the car, so I gotta face that fear of walking in the dark. See, you're opting, you're choosing to do that. The other one, you're not choosing to do that. It's being done to you. You get what I'm saying? So, all right. Thank you, Liz.
Yes.
All right, Asabi. I know you're gonna have a million questions that you want to ask me another day, but do you have one you want to ask today? Asabi said, "Nope, I ain't asking shit."
Sorry about that. I'm still working, and but I'm following. I'm still working, and there's like a little party going on, so
Oh,
I
well,
have
you
no
go
questions.
party. All right, just hit me up and ask me another day. All right, y'all. So that's pretty much everybody. It's been fun. Infernal Blessings. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube.
Did you ask Kevin?
Huh?
Did you ask Kevin if he needed?
Yeah, he didn't have
Oh,
no
okay.
questions. No. So I'm put this up on YouTube. I'm not putting it on Patreon. I just want to pipe Patreons to participate so we can get some good discussions going. So I'm put this on YouTube because they need to hear this too on YouTube, by the way. I'm sure y'all know. They need to hear this. So, all right, y'all. Infernal Blessings. Those are y'all in the Black Path of Sith. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And then next week, I'll see my Sith and my Vampires and everybody else. All right. Bye-bye.